I'm Maya Kobe-Rendio. I'm an editor and producer with the Aspen Ideas Festival, and I'm so happy to be here today. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. As a quick heads up, this session is a 65-minute live recording of the Talk Easy podcast, and we'll end at 2:05. I'm so glad we have this extra time to spend with our two panelists today. It's going to be an extraordinary conversation. It is my honor to introduce the host of Talk Easy, Sam Fragoso, one of the best interviewers out there today. He is so thoughtful with his questions and really brings out the best in everyone he talks to. Today, Sam will be in conversation with the incredible Patricia Clarkson. She's a 3-time Emmy Award winner. That's right. Yes. She is a timeless actor who has graced our screens in everything from The Station Agent to 6 Feet Under and Sharp Objects to playing the cool mom to end all cool moms in Easy A. Please join me in welcoming Patricia Clarkson and Sam Fragoso.
Hi. Look, this is we got a small but mighty group here.
Yeah, hello.
This is
Competing with something bigger.
Yeah, well, you know what? Everyone's gonna leave this and go, "You really missed out." Patricia Clarkson, nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
She right before we went on, she said, "Okay, what if we just had a glass of rosé?"
That says everything about me.
And I said, "I've been doing the show for 9 years, haven't done that, but win in Aspen." I want to start with your latest film. You're going to talk about it tomorrow, but I want to talk about it a little bit here, in which you play Lily Ledbetter, a woman who began working on the factory floor of Goodyear in 1979, only later to discover that she was being paid nearly half of what her male counterparts were making. When it comes to acting, you've said it's always about playing facets of yourself and letting those facets come through. So when it came to Lily, what were those facets that you wanted to seep through into the performance?
Well, I did something rather radical. People are shocked. I didn't meet Lily Ledbetter. First of all, it was the greatest privilege of my life and my career to play this woman, and I don't say that lightly. But Lily, I'm the baby of 5 daughters, and Lily was on such a pedestal. And as an actor, I'm going to get a little methody, but you cannot play someone who's high in your life. You have to put their feet on the ground. So I realized she was cool with this. She kind of got it, and I said, we're going to meet at the end, because I didn't want to play her. I felt I owed her the best of everything in me and the best of great women in my life that have imprinted on me. And so
Is your mother included in that?
Oh, God, yes, of course. My mother is a remarkable human being. She's passed, unfortunately. But my mother ran the city of New Orleans under the great Mayor Mitch Landrieu. So my mother was a titan. And she was president of the city council. And my mother was titan. She raised 5 daughters, no sons. And so you can imagine how large Lily Ledbetter loomed with all of us. And so I didn't want to play or portray. I wanted to be her. I wanted her to be flesh and blood. And in order to do that, I had to bring the best of me. And that's, for me, acting is giving up of yourself. It is taking whatever aligns with the character and not being afraid to portray that, whether it's good or bad.
So where did your mother line up with Lily?
Well, one campaign speech I was giving for my mother, I used the word indefatigable. And the only other person I would say is indefatigable is Lily Ledbetter. They are kindred spirits. They're somewhere together right now. I feel it having, I don't know, my mother didn't really drink, but maybe she is now. So they're having a great time, I hope.
When in heaven, I think that's also another saying. You've been working in Hollywood dating back to the so I want to start, but you started working in Hollywood in the mid-'80s. And from the jump, you were paid less than your male counterparts. Did you see yourself in Lily's journey fighting for equal pay, for equal work?
Well, at the time, no. We never questioned our salaries as actresses. We just never did. I think we felt so lucky to get the job, which is unfortunate. But then when I started to realize what I was paid in the past, my jaw started to drop, and I started to realize, my God, this is shocking what I worked for. But, you know, Hollywood has undergone such a radical change right now, and for the better, of course. And it's gotten, we're still not quite on par, but we are doing much better. And now, like, when I played Lily, I was paid the most.
I mean, you would think if you play the character whose name is in the
That's
title.
not always true.
Yes. You said equal pay is not a political issue.
No.
How come it's treated like one?
Well, it's ridiculous that it's a political issue because when women make equal pay, everyone benefits. Your children, your spouses, your partners, your lovers, your mistresses. Everybody benefits with equal pay. You know what I mean? So
hold on. Patricia?
Yes.
The mistresses benefit?
Sure.
Because the hotel rooms are better?
Yes.
I swear it was one glass of rosé. I swear.
But no, the thing is equal pay has no race, creed, color, sexual preference. Lily was fighting for everyone. She was fighting across this great nation for every single person, north, south, east, west, black, white, brown, and gay, straight, transgender. You know, equal pay is equal pay.
Well, let's take a look at. Well, why don't we take a look at her fighting for just about everyone. This is Patricia Clarkson in the film Lily. Just close your eyes.
Mrs. Ledbetter, I have a meeting.
It'll just be a minute.
I'm listening.
I understand everything you do is to bolster the American economy, and I respect that. But women aren't the enemy of the economy, we're the backbone.
I've seen your stump speech.
And I've seen the polling. Don't score the vote. You'll be making a strategic error. All women want equality, not just women from one party. You can't afford to lose 51% of your voters.
I'm not so sure of those numbers.
There are Republican senators who want to support this bill. Do you want their seats to be collateral damage? Think about the future. Thank you for your time.
But you think about that scene right now, which is what's going on with the big vote right now. Woo, baby! As we speak, they're about to vote. Yeah.
At the end of that scene, it looked like you were about to roll your eyes. Is that what it felt like?
Did something a little sassy at the end of that scene, but they didn't keep it in. I kind of swaggered off. I'm going to do it now.
There we go. Thank you.
I was like, mm-hmm.
And action.
And I remember I kind of turned, and I kind of walked like that. But they took that out. But you all got to see it.
It's good when you have I do a lot of interviews, and, sometimes you have guests on, and they just don't bring a whole lot. And I'm not naming names, Brian De Palma, but you are thank you for that. That was amazing. It's clear watching that, though, that there's a ton of your mom in that scene. But before she was a councilwoman in New Orleans, mother of 5 girls, you the youngest, she was at home, like, taking care of you. And I'm curious, every time you've talked about your childhood, it sounds like the most idyllic childhood there can be. There's summer trips in your family's white and mint green Volkswagen bus, the shrimp and crawfish boils, the fishing in the Gulf, the swimming in Pass Christian. And yet, you've said if we were to interview your sisters, who are decidedly not here today, they would tell us that Patricia has a lot of rage. She was an emotional child. So since your sisters didn't make the trip, unless they want to say hi now, did you feel as a kid that you had a lot of rage? And what did that look like?
I was, well,
you can stand up and demonstrate if you want to do that.
My nickname was Banshee. So, no, I was a very emotional child. I think that's why acting saved me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a beautiful childhood, but we grew up really not. We grew up in the suburbs. I mean, I grew up in beautiful New Orleans, but in Algiers, I went to public schools. My mother was a stay-at-home mother at the time, and my father ran a children's home and then was dean of admissions at LSU Medical School. He had a master's in public health, but I drank a lot of powdered milk as a child. Ooh,
a lot of what?
Powdered milk. I can't stand the smell of it now. But but it was 5. They were raising 5 daughters, and so my mother, like Lily, decided she had to work at 40 and close to 40, and that's when she started selling real estate, and then that got her into running head of Louisiana Realtors, then state legislator, and then my mother really, her heart was. She truly is the emblem of all politics are local. My mother believed in the power of the city. And so being, first of all, council member of District C, the French Quarter, and Algiers was her calling, and then president of the city council. So it was, but I had a very good childhood, but I was a very emotional child. I mean, look at the parts I play. Where the hell do you think they come from? They're not coming from wee, they're coming from
But so hold on.
Coming from angst.
Patricia, that's what I want to know what the is. So
It's just I was born with it.
You were born with it.
I was born a little bit, I'm a Southern girl, so I was born a little bit, I was born needy. And I was born, first of all, I was born in high heels and lipstick and hair curlers. But I just think it was just the makeup of me. I think I had similar makeup to an aunt I had.
Do you think all youngest children are needy?
Well, we're attached, it was very hard for me growing up. I went off to school at 17, but I miss my sisters, I miss my family. I was babied, not really. I was babied more by my sisters than my mother and my father. I'm very close to my sisters till this day. I worship them.
So you said acting saved you. Mm-hmm. And I believed it started to save you in the 8th grade when you were in a speech class with Mrs. Morrison, combing through index cards as you prepared. Did you feel that...
You've done your homework.
Well, look, we show up for you here. Did you feel that performance... Did you feel then that was a place to put all the rage your sisters were talking about?
It was Miss Morrison. It was a speech class, and I was giving these kind of performances in each speech I was giving. And that's when she said, you're an actress, and you should be in the drama.
Remember one of the subjects that you gave a speech on?
I had to rank the greatest. I remember one speech I had to rank the greatest professions, and I put teacher as number 1. But we had to give speeches, and I was performing them. I was kind of memorizing them and performing them. So I joined the drama club, and one of the big plays I did was called Flipped, Feminist Liberation Idealist Party for Permanent Equality and Democracy. And I was 14 years old, baby.
I can't believe you're still off book. That's amazing. So you were emboldened by your Flipped performance. You go to O'Perry Walker High School under the tutelage of the late Miss Ethel East. She passed a few years ago, but you've said that she laid the groundwork that would carry me through the rest of my life. What was the groundwork?
Well, she exposed me. Yes, did I do Star Spangled Girl and fun comedies and family, kind of conventional family. But then she also she exposed me to Ionesco and Sartre and really beautiful, she made me perform Our Town. She entered me in dramatic competitions. And so she took me seriously. And I had never had anybody. I think people, when you're younger, they think of it as a hobby. And I think Miss East saw me as a professional for the first time in my life. She was a remarkable human being. She was Cajun. She was from New Iberia. She was wonderful, beautiful, amazing, amazing woman.
How did it feel to be taken seriously at that age?
I responded because it filled me with something. It took me to places that I was always an emotional child, but now it was channeled into something I felt that was worthwhile instead of me just screaming.
There's like this weird tendency. The press loves asking you about never having been married and never having children.
No.
And I think they ask you because you've played so many mothers.
I literally have played every single mother of every single star in Hollywood. Yes, I have. And I love them all. And I still keep in touch with all of them. No, I knew at a very young age, marriage was, I think it's because I lived through, my parents had a remarkable marriage. They were married for 72 years. And I grew up in the dense suburbs. But I needed to flee that. I liked my freedom. Once I got over my homesickness.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yes.
In high school, you said, I knew I never wanted to be married, and I knew I didn't want to have children because I would not be good at it.
I didn't think I would be.
How the hell does a 14-year-old know something like that?
I just did. And I knew, I looked around. My mom and dad had so many friends with babies and children. And my mother, a small party for my mother, even though we had no money and our house wasn't that big, but a small party was 50 people. And it was like Grand Central in our house. And so I wanted solitude, and I wanted freedom. I just understood. And I've had remarkable men in my life. I've had incredible relationships. I would say most of the men I've been with, not all, have been fabulous. And I've become a better person through them. But they needed wives, and I'm not a wife. I knew that early on. I liked my freedom. I liked my I liked being solitary. I liked my solitude. I don't know. I mean, it's just something I knew young, and thank goodness I knew it. Because I don't, I get asked that question, and there's two timbres of voice that ask me that question. And it's always from a certain woman. And they, some women, they come up to me and they say, so, you've never married? And I say, no. And they go, oh, wow, cool. And then there's a woman who comes up and she's like, Patricia, you've never married? As though my marriage was for her. And then I say to her, no, I've never been divorced, bitch. Thank you. That's okay at Aspen. Come on.
It's more than okay.
It's the timbre of voice, and it's the timbre of voice. It's just the weirdest thing to me. So, whatever. Look, if my old-fashioned Southern mother can, come to terms with it, honey, you can. Okay.
So when you went to your old-fashioned Southern mother and said, I'm going to New York, I have to leave home, I have to leave everyone in this community, a community that your family has been in for several generations. Do you remember when you told her that you had to go?
Yes, I called her from the back phone. I was a Tri-Delta at LSU. Delta, 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 which Delta would you like to try? And so sorry.
If there's another verse, I don't know it, so just keep going.
So I was in the back hallway of the Tri-Delta House, and I made a phone call. And we had a ratty old Toyota and a station wagon. And this is the beauty of my mother, because it changed my whole life. I called her, and I said, Mom, I'm not coming back. I can't come back. I need to move on. And literally, in one split moment, she said, Patty, I'll bring the station wagon. And that was it. And a dear friend of mine put that in a framed picture for me, printed it out. Patty, I'll bring the station wagon. I have it sitting out. So that says a lot about my mother, and it changed my life because I got LSU. It was a great school. I just needed, I knew I needed to be in New York, and I transferred to Fordham, and it was the best thing I ever did in my whole life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
But you're at Fordham, and that I think you called it mangy, dirty Upper West Side apartment.
No. No, I was at the YMCA.
Oh.
Because Fordham, I was at the Lincoln Center campus, had no dorms.
Okay.
So I was at the YMCA, and I met a young woman there who was at Parsons. She spoke very little English, but enough to say, we have to get out of here. And we did. And we rented, we lucked out. We lucked out. We got a nice, a big one-bedroom, and they built a wall down the middle of it for us. I mean,
Was that with the really nice super?
well, then, so it's only in New York, you guys. I mean, I guess I'm spilling all the beans, but it's only in New York. So we're there, and for 2 years, and then we have this super who's lovely. I go down to the basement. He loans us furniture. We hang out with him, but he got a little weird towards the end of our 2 years there, and we were both moving. I was going off to Yale. She was going back to Caracas. And one day when I was at Yale School of Drama, my friend Margie Malczewski calls me. She said, have you seen the front page of the Post? I said, no. She said, your super killed his wife, 2 children, and 2 tenants in your building. And this man, you guys, I had been in the basement of that multiple times with this man alone, picking out furniture to put in our apartment or changing out furniture, or I cannot even tell you. So was Viviana. So had Viviana been. It was crazy. But I think he was drinking more. So something had changed in him, because he was very nice when we moved in. But is that not a New York story?
I swear, the murderer, he was so nice when we started. He didn't try to kill me once. Only an actor could display such empathy. Would you stupid? Would you play him in a movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could shapeshift into that.
I'll play anything.
Okay. Well, speaking of playing anything, when you're at Yale, it's my understanding you had this coffee table that was, in your words, cheesy and ugly.
Oh, so bad. We found it on the street.
But it was long. It was long, so it held at a time 4 scripts that sat on it.
Yes.
It sounds like this was a crystallizing moment for you. So tell me what happened.
You were always Yale was brutal. I mean, it was extraordinary, but it was 17-hour days, 8 days a week. Seriously, I would go home at Christmas, and my parents would think, we need to put an IV in this young girl. How are you? But it was brutal because it was so. You were studying, so you were doing scenes in class, and you were doing a play, then you were doing the cabaret. So I would lay out just 4 different scripts of what I was working on. The coffee table held them, and that's how it worked. You had to just go from. I did so many different parts at Yale, so many crazy and beautiful and amazing characters and wonderful women. Wonderful.
What do you think? Before you went to Yale, what did you think acting required? And once you graduated, what did you realize it really required?
I think I always thought it required diligence and time and fortitude, but I realized, and patience. But then when I really got out of Yale and in this industry, it required so much strength and so much belief in yourself and who you are. I never had to really kind of look inward and believe in myself. But when you are in this industry, you have to believe in everything you are and want to be.
Mm. Once you graduate, things work out pretty quickly for you.
Yes.
And you work with Kevin Costner and The Untouchables, Clint Eastwood, and the Deadpool. But come the 90s, you're in your 30s, you said it was a decade where things got very weird and everything became difficult. When you say weird, what do you mean?
Well, it's just because I was working. I was right out of Yale. I did, I was on Broadway in House of Blue Leaves. I did The Untouchables, which was a really beautiful experience. And I did the last Deadpool. I'm Clint's type, and I was cast off tape, and I fly to San Francisco, and there's Clint Eastwood. My father was thrilled.
What was Clint's type?
Petite blondes. So I and he only cast off tape, so I didn't meet him till I got to San Francisco. But he was lovely. He was actually really lovely. And I got paid for the first time. I think back on that money, and it was terrible. But for me, I thought, I'm rich. And I wasn't. Because I was living in New York. It was really a struggle. But so so things were going well. And then I did another Broadway play. And then, suddenly things got really tough for me when I was like 34. And really 32, 33, I just played, I think, too many suburban something. I couldn't really, I couldn't work the way I wanted to work. I really wanted to do movies, and I really wanted to do really demanding, amazing parts. Mm. And I really was being cast as kind of trophy wives or suburban wives, the kind of peripheral figures in the script that really required very little of me, and it was difficult for me.
Well, I would say that one of the most demanding parts you played came in 1998 as you played a gay German heroin addict and former Fassbinder starlet named Greta in the movie High Art. You said that the director, Lisa Cholodenko, saw something in you that was much closer to Greta than the suburban moms I had been playing to that point. What do you think she saw?
Well, I think because of the kind of strife I had been in, acting is always one step closer than you think. And I think the turmoil and the kind of strife and struggle I had been in was such a shadow next to me, and that was Greta. I'm not lesbian, I'm not German. I've never even smoked pot, you guys. I've never been high in my life. But the day is young, and I'm in Aspen.
By the way, we're in Colorado, and secondly, the moment I walked on stage, I just look like I'm stoned no matter what. The amount of times I get confused for the kid in Dazed and Confused is...
Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes.
Unsettling. Yes. It's unsettling.
But no, but Lisa, I went into that. I was in L.A. trying to get a job, and I flew back. She was at the very end of casting. I think she was going to cast this other person. And I flew in, and I just read for her. And I had a German accent in my head because my roommate at the time had a German agent, and I used to take calls for him all the time. And so I don't know. It was the gift of my career because it really changed everything for me. And Lisa Cholodenko is a brilliant human being, and it just changed everything for me from that moment on. I never knew, playing a German lesbian heroin addict, that it would be such a gift, but it was such a beautiful experience. But I have to tell you the greatest story. So my mother and father go to see High Art in New Orleans. It's in the theater. And my mother's very cool. My mother loves it when I'm out on a limb. And, they go to see it, and they take my great Aunt Patsy, my namesake. And she's like, I think in her 80s at this point. And they go to the theater, and they come home, and they call me that night. And, my mother was like, Patty, you were fabulous, fabulous. Your father loved you. He didn't like seeing you as a heroin addict, but he still loves you. But Aunt Patsy wants to call you tomorrow. I said, okay. My Aunt Patsy gets on the phone. She has a very specific, distinct New Orleans, Patty, darling, Aunt Patsy. You're a wonderful, wonderful actress, just wonderful. But let me tell you something. If a director told me I had to be a German, lesbian, heroin addict, I would have told that director, I can play one of the three. On my mother's life. I dropped the phone. I was laughing so hard.
Well, why don't we see you play all three, huh? This is a clip from the film High Art.
This restaurant has a policy about sleeping in here.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. She's just exhausted.
I understand. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave if she falls asleep again.
Sure. I'm really sorry.
I can't do this anymore.
What? You wanna break up with me again?
Chi, I wanna help you get over this.
Sleep with Sid if you want. I can't tell you what to do.
Chi, listen to me.
She's such a poser. With her stupid-ass magazine. I don't know what to see in her.
You're not listening to me. I can't wait around and keep talking about when you're gonna change. You need some help, Chi.
Look at yourself, Lucy.
This restaurant has a policy about...
I think you shook your head during the entirety of that clip. Actually, I don't think that you did shake your head during the entirety of that clip.
There are things I've done I've never seen. It's just who I am. I really just like to act. I like to do it. I like to experience it, but I really don't like watching myself. I like to watch the other actors, so sometimes I'll just watch the film and watch other people, and then when I'm on the screen, I just dip my head.
When your mother saw the film, she told New Orleans Magazine, for the first time in her career, I lost my daughter in the role. When your mother loses you in the character, you have to be pretty excellent.
My mother was cool. She was very cool. She loved all of us deeply.
I mean, she lost you in watching it. Did you lose yourself in making that?
Yeah, I did a little. Just because of we were shooting High Art. We had no money. We had $500,000. We had the biggest heat wave in Brooklyn, and I had on pleather pants. So it was very easy to be exhausted and shattered and kind of out of it because it was 110 degrees in the apartment. And I just had to be in a certain mindset. I had met with a heroin addict before I shot. Fortunately, an ex-heroin addict. But, I think we all lose ourselves. I mean, we lose ourselves at times in these parts for a good reason. Because, if that character is not taking up more space in me than my friends or something I'm reading or something I'm watching then something's wrong. That has to occupy the most amount of space in my body and my mind and my emotions. And that's, I think, also why me marrying and having children, it's just, it's a total immersion that I have. And yet I can also do these deeply emotional scenes and stuff, and I don't carry them with me, and I'm not an asshole and abuse other people on a set when I have an emotional scene. But I do think we have to be cognizant of the fact that if we're out, acting has very little to do with the head. And it's corny to say, but it is 90% your heart. And if it's not there, you're going to fail. You're going to fail.
But I guess I'm wondering, like, if the work requires all of you, your head and your heart, what is left for you when you're done with something like that?
Oh, I get my life. I have a fabulous life. I'm single. Are there eligible bachelors in Aspen? No, I mean, I have a fabulous, I have the most beautiful friends. One of my besties is right here, came with me to Aspen, a beautiful, extraordinary woman. She has a real job. She's a cytogeneticist. But I have extraordinary friends and very few friends in the industry. I have friends who have really amazing lives and friends who have children. And I have incredible people. I have a beautiful apartment. I live a nice life, so I can get back into it. Mm. And have fun and have, and care about others and, do fundraising and do other things I want to do.
You said recently that if you look back at most of my work, there is a common thread that emerges. I think I've played a lot of women on the edge, women on the outskirts that are bold or different and in very dramatic situations. Is that the product of people asking you to do those parts, or you feel most drawn to them?
I think it's both. I think the more you do these complicated characters, the more people come to you for these characters, or you seek them out. But 90% of the work I've done, I was just offered, For many years I auditioned, which is brutal. And that's one of the great things in my life for many years now is I just get offered these beautiful parts. I got called in London to be offered Lily, and I remember the phone call. My agent was like, "You've just been offered Lily Ledbetter. Do you know who she is?" I was like, "Chris, honey, do I know who Lily is?" This is going to be a very quick yes, So, I just got offered something extraordinary. I can't talk about it, but very complicated. Mm-hmm. In the lead of the film, but I can't talk about it. Well, because it's going to be announced, but I can't share it. But you
want to give us the initials of the person you're playing? Okay. Have you worked with them before?
I'm not going to say. But I just got offered this part, and I don't know. I get an email, Patty, you've been offered this, and I.
You don't seem like someone who does emails.
I don't like them. But but I make myself do them. I like to text. I like to talk on the phone.
Mm. You're a phone.
This isn't rosé, is it? Mm.
It's not yet.
This is such a. Can I keep this mug?
Yeah, I think if it keeps going well, you can keep it. Now, so we have about 27 minutes left, and I'm going to ask you some big things. I have to compress time here. Yes. You've said. Acting is, what the hell did you say? You said so many good things. Acting is intimacy. The best actors are very revealing when they act, so of course some things are going to be illuminated. That aren't anywhere else. It's easy to understand why people fall in love when they work together. And it's also why people split up because of working together. Now that sounds like someone speaking from a place of experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Does falling in love with someone offset make the work on set better?
Well, you have to be a little bit in love if you're playing lovers. You have to have some kind of, you can't, I think what lives on screen lives off. And I don't mean you have to have an affair with someone you're doing a scene with. I think you can easily, successfully do a love scene. First of all, they're very technical and they're the least sexy things alive, but a lot of them. But I think just for the most part, if you're telling a love story, like in Lily, I have this beautiful love story with my husband, and I've known Benjamin Hickey for 30 years. I used to date his best friend, and so, it all works. It's all present. It's all. You can only fake so much as an actor, and when something has to be so created, it then stands as performance and not as being, not as living. And I think that's when we fall into traps as actors, and I try to avoid them. So I try my best to bring whatever parts of me align. But I do think, yes, have I fallen in love with some of my co-stars? Of course, my God. I'll give names later, more rosé. No, I mean, of course I have. Have I had a affair or two with an unmarried person? Maybe.
I do have some names, but
No.
It's just too damn early to say them. But I've always been fascinated. I mean, should it just be expected that actors are gonna, there's a chance you're crossing the Rubicon?
Of course, because again, you can only fake so much, and also we are flesh and blood meeting flesh and blood. We are body upon body, but and very intimate. And usually, it's the emotional side of the performance that brings you closer to your co-star than anything. But I did this movie Elegy, and the very first scene I shot
with Sir Ben Kingsley.
Yes, with Sir Ben. The very first scene with Isabel Coixet, beautiful, one of my favorite directors in the world. She's Catalan. You can't say she's Spanish, she's Catalan. And the very first scene I shot, I was buck-ass naked on top of Sir Ben Kingsley. And I said, so nice to meet you. Sir Ben. I always called him Sir Ben, and he loved that.
You said that when you were on top of him?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And he said what?
He was like, this is a great day.
That's amazing. After that High Art, basically, once you made High Art, the door kind of opened for you, and you were in all these movies, and you have this career since then, since 1998, that if we asked everyone in the audience to name their favorite Patricia Clarkson performance, I think most of them would have different answers. And there's very few people who've had a career like that. Like you were so convincing playing other people that when you were cast in Shutter Island, Martin Scorsese called the New York Times and said, "For years I have been watching her, not knowing she was the same actor in all these movies. I have been fooled so many times."
No, look, Marty is, a dream come true when I got that call. It's one scene in a cave, and I've never looked better, if you remember. Woo!
I do have the clip here.
No. Oh, God.
But based on your comments, I'm not.
No, but working, that's why we live. We live to work with people like Martin Scorsese, but we also live with Pieces of April, this beautiful Peter Hedges, gorgeous, one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. Station Agent, Tom McCarthy, Peter Dinklage, his first movie, Bobby Cannavale. We had them, so you live to work with these beautiful minds and souls. I mean, look at who I've worked with. And
but there is no one that has done, I think, the amount of serious, dark, painful parts, and then balanced it with something like Easy A. And I just want to watch like a second of we've seen some sad stuff. I want to play something from that one.
Easy A.
Yes.
That boy from yesterday just dropped this off for you.
Well, put it in the pile of gifts for my other suitors.
He seems like a nice kid. He seemed a little incredibly gay.
A dyed-in-the-wool homosexual, that boy is.
I just want you to know your father and I are totally supportive.
We love you no matter what the sexual orientation of your opposite sex partner.
We're not dating, Mom.
And don't worry about not making us grandparents. Although we were kind of hoping you'd get knocked up so we'd have a second shot at raising kids, really do it right this time.
Bye now.
You know, I dated a homosexual once. For a long time, actually. A long time.
Dear God, dear Lord, tell me you did not marry and have children with him.
No. No. Your father is as straight as they come. A little too straight, if you know what I mean, girlfriend.
I don't. Can you shut the door, please?
Okay, door's right over there.
That one you seem to kind of like. Yeah. That was good.
Well, working with Emma Stone was delicious and perfect, and we witnessed just the making of a star. So it was, and I'm very close to Stanley Tucci, so I had just a beautiful experience on that film. Yeah.
Speaking of Stanley Tucci, I was thinking about your work and the, Whitman containing multitudes. I think some people contain more, and I really do feel like there's so many different people in you. And so as we go back to Lily and the equal pay of it all, this is something you've been outspoken about in Hollywood for a long time. Do you remember when you called your agents that first time to ask how much your male co-stars were making? I think this was in 2007, 2008.
Yes. Yeah.
This is you starring opposite Chris Cooper in Married Life and Stanley Tucci in Blind Date. Mm-hmm. They made more than you did.
Well, no, they didn't. No, they're not in marriage.
So what was the phone call to the agent?
I just said, I want to know what I'm making, what he's making. My part is just as difficult, if not more. We're on par. Like there has to be pay parity. I have to have it, or I'm not doing it. And that I did change. I changed my salary because thankfully we were very far along in the process, and they found more money for me. Yeah.
When your agent told you that you don't want to know the numbers that some of your co-stars have made, did that upset you?
Well, that was water under the bridge, and there was nothing I could do about it now. But
their job is to look out for
I
you.
know, but they don't. And that was not part of the Hollywood ethos. That was not part of how we lived in Hollywood. We never questioned our salaries, you guys. We just didn't. We felt so lucky to get a job because we, look at all of the male-dominated series, male-dominated movies. We have far fewer jobs than men, and so we feel indebted to our industry when we get one. We bend our knee, but not anymore. We're getting better at this. We're questioning everything, and women have risen tremendously, and especially women of color. And we need way more women of color behind the cameras. But like on Lily, our entire crew basically was female. And that I'm seeing, like when I did The Untouchables, even my makeup artist was a man. There was not a single female or person of color on the set. And now that is not acceptable on any level, on any set, anywhere across our country. And in Europe, too.
Lily Ledbetter battled ageism, gender equality, misogyny at every turn. And there's this scene early in the movie where she says, where she talks about being passed over for promotions because she wouldn't go to the Ramada. A woman ain't worth nothing if they don't put out, she says. Now, you had a great turn in the movie She Said about the New York Times piece that exposed Harvey Weinstein. But you had your own run-in with him during The Station Agent, where he said to you, "You will never work again. What he did to me was terrible." Now, by my count, you've made 41 films since then, and he's in Rikers. But
Let me explain what happened.
Okay, but let me just get it right. Let me set it up right. Terrible look like what?
Well, wait, what
You said it. You said what he did to me was terrible.
Well, this is what happened, is I was lucky enough in the year 2003. I had these two beautiful films, Station Agent and Pieces of April, that I loved, unconditionally. I loved both of them. But I was the leading lady of Station Agent, and I was the sporting character in Pieces of April. I'm not April, Katie Holmes is. And Bingham Ray, the great Bingham Ray, who owned October Films at the time, God is that missed right now, had already started a supporting campaign for me. But Harvey was livid. He liked to fake categorize actors, put leading actors in supporting category, which I find bullshit. And it's wrong, because supporting actors need to be honored and need to be in the right place. And it's a real pet peeve of mine. And I said to Harvey, no, Harvey, I'm the leading lady of Station Agent. I'm in supporting. Support me as the lead. Well, you could win the Oscar in supporting. I said, I don't care about that. I said, that's fabulous. What do you mean, you're going to get me an Oscar? I said, please. I said, I am staying and leading. So he harassed me. It was a terrible situation. And he pitted people against me and the other film. He was just a disaster. And
he was making calls around town?
Yes, he was threatening me and telling me that I was ruining Station Agent. The only shot they had, I was like, support Peter Dinklage, he's brilliant. I stayed, but the amazing thing happened. I'm one of 8 actors in the history of an acting. The SAG nominations came out, and I pulled off a leading actress nomination, supporting actress nomination, and ensemble nomination. There's 8 of us in the history of acting that have pulled that out, and that had nothing to do with Harvey. And all he had to do was support me in leading actress for the Oscars, and that's all he had to do. It was a terrible situation.
When that happened, did he stop harassing you after that happened?
No, but he wouldn't even let me at the ceremony, at the SAG ceremony. He wouldn't even let me sit at the table. I sat alone at a table. He's in Rikers. Fucking.
Yeah.
But I didn't talk about it a lot because I wasn't sexually harassed by him, and the sexual harassment that so many people suffered was unbearable and
yes, but there's all kinds of harassment.
Yes, this was absolute harassment, but
all forms can create an isolation in someone.
Yeah. No, it was rough. It was rough. There was no doubt. It took a beautiful moment in my life and kind of shat on it, and
It is a good image. We're here in Aspen doing a retrospective of your career. He's rotting away, his sad self. It's a good contrast right there. So yes, he's never been able to do that. I promise you, never. And before we go, speaking of the work, I want to end on. Well, I'm going to get to it.
Okay.
I'm thinking about your. I called.
You've got me. You've got me all hot and flustered, and it's not a hot flash.
What?
Way past that.
What?
I don't know. You just have me hot and flustered.
Okay. Can we turn the lights down? People are going to see this video later. They're gonna be like, what the fuck was going on? I called your friend Sam Rockwell this morning, and I was asking him what piece of yours he likes the most. And he said, far and away, it's your turn in Sharp Objects. Yes. It's a round of applause.
Such a lovely woman.
Yeah, well, he said it's your Blanche Dubois. Is your turn in that.
I've played Blanche Dubois.
I know you have.
A lot of Blanche in that.
But I want to talk about those parts, the human toll of giving yourself to the work, as we talked about earlier. The reason I keep going back to this is because there's an interview you did with your friend, the poet Howard Altman.
Yeah.
Where you had this line that it has just stayed with me all week, and I just wanted to read it for everyone. You said, "Every time I take a role, there's something that shifts in me. It's visceral, it's chemical, and every time it's frightening and exhausting, and it's why I'm always so exhausted. It takes so much of me to act. I don't know how to approach something any other way. It's a blessing and a curse, and I've lived with it since I was 12.
Well, there is a lot of truth. I mean, I can let that go, but I am exhausted often when I'm acting. Yes.
We've talked
Because
about
it's
the
constant.
blessing,
Yeah.
right? We've gone through the blessings of it, but the curse. What does that mean to you?
Well, the curse is that I think it's taken a toll on my personal life. I mean, I think it's taken a toll on me at times physically. It's taken a toll on me at times mentally. You just have to be honest about it. You can't play these characters to the depth you hope to dive and not come back up with the bends. You're gonna suffer. But then you're gonna have a beautiful support. I have an incredible family. I have incredible friends. I have a support system, and I'm always buoyed back. But
how did you know that at 12? You say 12.
Did.
What happened at 12 for you to know that?
Speech class.
That was
12
it.
or 13. Yeah. There's something that changed in me chemically, viscerally. Something changed in my body and in my soul.
At that time, when you knew you didn't want to have kids, you knew you didn't want to get married, was that about, did you know then at 12 and 14 that you didn't want to wait till you were 50 to pursue your dreams, the way your mom had to wait to pursue her dreams? Did you know that then, that you wanted to start right away?
No, yes, I knew immediately that I needed to work. I went to Fordham. I left my house. I gave up the security of New Orleans and Baton Rouge and my family and went to New York, which was very frightening, and then went on to Yale School of Drama, which was brutal and demanding but extraordinary, and then went to live in New York City with no money, but I knew I was in hot pursuit, and I knew I loved working, and I loved being creative every day of my life. I loved it. I needed it.
You know what? I keep getting the fucking question wrong. I keep writing it in my head, and it's wrong every time. And thank God there'll be editing. Not for you today, but there'll be editing. I guess what I'm getting at is the curse actually just the curse of knowing with absolute certainty your purpose in life? Like the curse and weight of knowing you have an assignment to carry out for the brief time that you're here.
I think that's one of the most profound things that's ever been said. I think that's exactly it. I knew early on my purpose. And I had to live with it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I knew that the curse was that I did know the purpose I had in this life. And I had no other purpose. I had no other way to go forward. I just had no other way to go forward. And I knew that early on.
Well, then I think it is only fitting that we return to the text that started it all for you. This is the monologue from Our Town that you performed at the age of 14.
Goodbye to clocks ticking and coffee brewing.
Since we weren't in the audience of that local competition, I thought if you're open to it, you could do a little reading for us.
Oh my God. This is long.
You do as much or as little as you want.
All right. I won the competition. Oh, but Mother Gibbs, one can go back there again into the living. I feel it. I know it. Why just then for a moment I was thinking about the farm, and for a moment I was there and my baby was on my lap plain as day. But I won't live over a sad day. I'll choose a happy one. I can choose a birthday at least, can I? I can choose my 12th birthday. Oh, that's the town I knew as a little girl. And look, there's the old white fence that used to be around our house. Oh, I'd forgotten that. And I love it so. Are they inside? I can't bear it. They're so young and beautiful. Why did they ever have to get old? Mama, I'm here. I'm grown up. I love you all. Everything. I can't look at everything hard enough. Good morning, Mama. Oh, Mama, just look at me for 1 minute. As though you really saw me. Mama, Mama, 14 years have gone by. I'm dead. You're a grandmother, Mama. I married George Gibbs, Mama. Wally's dead, too. Mama, his appendix burst on a camping trip to North Conway. We felt terrible about it, don't you remember? But just for a moment, now we're all together, Mama, just for a moment now. We're happy. Let's look at one another. I can't go on. It goes so fast. We don't have the time to look at one another. I didn't realize. So all that was going on and we never noticed. Take me back up the hill to my grave. But first, wait. One more look. Goodbye. Goodbye, world. Goodbye, Grover's Corners, Mama and Papa. Goodbye to clocks ticking and Mama's sunflowers and food and coffee and new ironed dresses and hot baths and sleeping and waking up. Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anyone to realize. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it every moment? I'm ready to go back. It's so sad. It's terrible. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I remember that still from when I was 14. I remember that still from when I was 14. Yeah. Lord, have mercy.
Yeah. That was amazing. Your mother always said to you, Patty, rise above. And I want to thank you so much for doing that time and time again, for reading something you haven't done since 14, indulging all my questions. It has meant so much to me, and I thank all of you for coming.
Thank you so much for coming.
Patricia Clarkson, ladies and gentlemen.